Okay, so we're going to haul this tanker full of fuel out. And one big thing I want to talk about is my new wheel. I have a Moza Racing R5. Yes, that is 5.5 Newton meters of torque. I really love it. I mean, this thing, I encourage you to research it. It is a big purchase. It is well over $400. I got it on sale. Nobody sent it to me, but if Moza wants to send me products to try, that would be great. But no, it was worth it to me. I really enjoy this. I can feel this sway going back and forth. I can feel the little variations in the roadway as it's turning left and right. Especially with my stability turned down, like this trailer is pulling me back and forth. The wheel, you can see the wheel moving right there back and forth. Now I'm causing a little bit of that. But when you go into a turn or the terrain changes or you hit, I don't know, there's even crowns in the road in this game some places. Like right now it's pulling me and I'm having to make those small adjustments. And it is very immersive. I mean, I can't speak anything more for this wheel. It is perfect. There is a little bit of setup to get into it when you open up the Moza Pit House software. You do need it to recognize the game, and you can go in there and have it recognize it, and then you'll click configure on the side. It's not a hard setup at all. There's plenty of videos out there. If you're like me, you go straight to YouTube University and learn how to do everything. But once it's set up, there are suggested settings for it or presets already made, and I went with the truck setting and couldn't be happier. I mean, I don't really have to change anything. I think this wheel is an infinite spin because it has a direct drive motor, so it'll sit there and it will spin forever. So you have to tell it where the stops are. And most like the Logitechs and things and the Thrustmasters, they'll either be like 280 or 270 and 900. 900 is your typical truck type wheel rotation. This one on the truck profile was set to 1800, and I was trying to back in to pick something up and it was just spinning and spinning and spinning. Man, is it ever going to get in here anywhere? Well, I cut it back to 900 and it's perfect. It's right back where it needs to be. I love it. It works well. It's doing good. It has, I'll tell you a little bit about the buttons if I can keep it between the lanes here. So it has typically all the normal buttons that you'd find on the racing wheels. It does have the 2 paddle shifters. I'm trying to think of a way I could click that. Now, you won't be able to hear it because it's not that loud, but it is very satisfying, like the actual sharp click that happens when you pull it. It's nice. I love it. It would be great for those racing games where you're paddle shifting. You get a definite sound and feel that you know you've changed gears. I use it on ATS. I use it to shut the engine on and off and to drop trailers. So I don't really use it too much. Right now I have this setting in the easy automatic, so I'm more focused on driving than doing the shifting. I do have a shifter. I just don't have it mounted to my desk yet. I do have the Moza shifter, I might add. So we're going to go back into that. I had used a shifter before with the Logitech, and it worked great. But when I changed to the Moza, obviously the Logitech wheel doesn't work with the Moza. So we're going to get pulled into this weigh station here, and that'll be fine. But so I'm waiting on the desk mount for that. I wasn't going to get it, but it ended up coming. So
let's find a new route.
We're going to use it. Oh, here we go. Pull down a little bit more. There it is. Right on the money. So back to the buttons. You have, let's see, I believe there's 21 buttons on here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 24 buttons actually. I haven't had a need. There's actually buttons on here that I did program in the keybinds that I don't actually use or really don't even need. For some reason, I just feel the need to keybind it to something. I have the radio actually programmed on here, which you don't really need to. Look at this wheel, boy, it's pulling me back and forth. But it's cool, you know. It has the X, Y, A, and B buttons on it, like the Xbox controllers, and I use that for my radio functions, so volume up and down and favorite, previous, and next functions. The buttons are a hard, shiny, smooth plastic. They feel great. They are pre-labeled. If you look at the images, you'll see that the buttons are pre-labeled. It's okay. I don't mind it. I don't use the radio button for the radio, and I don't use actually do use the cam button for the cam. The N button I use for lights. The WIP, I do use that for wipers. FL and PL, I don't know what they're meant for, but I use it for other things. So if I'm kind of OCD in the fact that stuff does bother me, but it's not bothering me that much. I mean, you can always make your own labels for them if you need to. Let me not run into the back of this guy. There we go. Maybe. But the buttons feel great. When you press them, like, they're not mushy and soft. They have a really good, they just feel good when you push them in. There's nothing cheap about this wheel. I mean, for the price, it is definitely what I want. It's what I expected. The steering wheel itself is like a soft, I know it's not real leather, but it's kind of a real smooth, soft. You just want to hug it, you know. And for all you people like me who wanted to know, you see the images of the little stripe at the top of the wheel. That's to indicate that that's the center, so you're back to center. But I watched all these videos on wheels, and I'm like, is that metal? Is it tape? Is it painted? Is it going to come off? What is that? Now, on the Logitech series, those are metal. They're kind of like a brushed aluminum. Now, on this wheel, it's actually the stitched leather. So the whole wheel is all black except for that 1/2 inch. Hit the rumble strip there. Except for that 1/2 inch piece right there. That wraps around the center point, and it feels good. It's very tight. All of it's hand stitched around. There is a seam on the inside of the wheel. It feels just like an authentic steering wheel. It feels great. The only thing that's different is the size. I believe it's just over 10 inches, right at about 11 inches in diameter, and an actual real steering wheel is a little bit larger than that. I think maybe 13 or so. But it doesn't affect it. I actually, when I was driving, I drove this thing solid for 2 straight days when I first got it. And I got in my actual truck to drive, and I'm looking for the D-pad to turn my blinkers on my actual truck. They're not there. And on this wheel, when I'm driving, I'm looking for the blinker stick on the left, because I get so immersed into it. It really does feel like that you're driving with a real wheel, because it's giving you that feedback, it's giving you that sway. You feel every bump. You go across railroad tracks, and there's sharp jabs that come through the steering wheel, and it feels very accurate. Now, another component of this wheel is the pedals. Now, a lot of people are not too excited about the pedals. I love these pedals. They're great. I have actually inverted mine upside down instead of putting my heel on the base plate, because with the Moza, you can tell the foot pedals, it's more for those folks who have the driving, like the rig set up, you know, where they can screw it and bolt it down, bolt the pedal plate down to the rig. If you're just using it like I am, just on carpet, it's not very good, because you go to push the brakes and you tip the whole thing over. What I did with that, I inverted it and leaned it up against the back rail of my desk. and I kind of zip tied it there upside down, and then let the base of the pedals, they rest on the ground. And it is very realistic, because now the pedals, instead of being, instead of the pivot point being on the floor, the pivot point is now up above your toes. So when you press down, you're pushing straight down, and it feels very, very real. It's very authentic. The feel of the accelerator pedal is really soft. It's not that hard, but it does have a little bit of resistance. And the brake, which is what most people, I would say, would speak about, the brake it has some resistance, but it's just a spring that's in there. It does not have varying resistance. It doesn't change. It's constant all the way down, and you can still feather it. Fortunately, there's enough travel that you can go half brake, or just tap the brake, or just go down a little bit, or you can full on push it all the way down. But it does not require a lot of force to push it all the way down. It is more than the accelerator, but it's not too much. They do make an adapter that will, it's kind of like a rubber bumper that you put inside of there, along with another spring, that is supposed to make it a little bit more, or a lot more actually, harder to compress. I don't feel the need for that. I think it's like a $40 kit. I would rather put the $40 towards the shifter, or some of the 18-speed Eaton shifters that go on top of a shifter knob, which I also have, and will incorporate that with this setup as soon as I get the Moza shifter mounted and incorporated. But this wheel, I'm going to tell you, the Moza wheel, I've used the Logitech G920. That's the first one I used. Made a couple videos with that. It's great. It was wonderful. That felt more to me like a restrictive wheel, not a force feedback. When I hear the word force feedback, I hear this thing's going to push back at me with the bumps and with the road. That the G920, the force feedback on that, and maybe mine was broke, maybe it didn't work right, but I feel like they're all the same. It was basically just turning through like a mechanical, what felt like a gear set. You were fighting resistance. You weren't fighting force feedback. It was just heavier resistance. This wheel actually pushes against you and will turn back and forth. And then when I get another camera set up, I will most certainly show you that, especially with SnowRunner. If any of you have ever played SnowRunner, it's a game basically just off-road and out in the mud and snow. And it will violently move back and forth as you're going through ruts of mud and snow. This game, sometimes I'll start to doze a little bit when I'm driving, and you hit these rumble strips, and it will wake you up. I mean, it just violently shakes you when you hit rumble strips. You wreck. It's sharp jolts that hit you. That's very cool. The Thrustmaster T248, I had that one for a little bit, and I just did not like. It had a dead zone at the top of the wheel, and it was meant. It's kind of a known thing with ATS that there was a dead zone up there. I didn't notice it in SnowRunner, but it did have a pretty good force feedback. Nowhere near as strong as the Moza, the 5.5, but the R5. But it did have a little bit of feedback, true force feedback. I'm not sure. I don't think that one's a direct drive. I think it's using bands. But it was better. I think it was a little better than the Logitech, but it was nowhere near this Moza. And my thought was, well, if I'm going to spend $350 on a Thrustmaster T248 with rubber bands, force feedback, I could spend $50 to $75 more and get the Moza 5 and have true force feedback, probably 3 to 4 times more than that Thrustmaster, and a much more premium product. And you're stepping into kind of like the mid-range, not professional type setup, but I mean, I'm no professional by any means, but this is definitely, as peripherals go for gaming, it's a little on the expensive side, but it's not out of our reach when considering some of these games are 70 and 80 bucks a pop. You know, I think it's priced appropriately. Now that's another thing to mention is this wheel does not come pre-set up for a lot of games. Forza is listed in the Forza Horizon 5 is one of the games that has I guess it says it's kind of set up for, but you do have some setup you have to go in and do. Other games, it's not necessarily compatible with it, but it will work with some of them. I think one of the ones though, what was it? The Crew 2. I could not get it to work with the Crew 2, which actually led me to looking at Forza. So that's an interesting thing to think about. That's part of the reason also why we sent back the Moza R3, because my son played the Crew 2 and it wasn't compatible with it. So it was like, well, do we really need two of these wheels? Do we, especially when it only works for certain games? I play American Truck Simulator, Snow Runner. I now play Forza. I'm going to play Euro Truck. When I get a burnout on this game, I'll move to Euro Truck and explore that, and then come back to this one. And this is one of those games that you can always just go back and forth, but I don't see it going away anytime soon. So the investment seemed right for the money, and we only needed the one. I think it worked out. Oh, there's a video. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.